Once again, Senator Rand Paul stood on the Senate floor and appealed to his party to reduce spending and offered an amendment to do just that. But in the end, 25 Republicans sided with Democrats and voted against it. Could it be that they're just fiscally ignorant? Or could there be a more personal reason to watch the government spend itself to death? We'll look into this mess and perhaps connect some dots for you in this episode of Analysis Behind the News, where we provide the perspective that you can use to help save American liberty and independence. Rand Paul's amendment, according to the newamerican.com, would have reduced the amounts appropriated for multiple departments in fiscal year 2020 domestic spending package by only 2% compared to fiscal year 2019 spending levels. Now, that may not seem like much, but when the federal government is adding more than $1 trillion to its annual debt, well, that 2% quickly adds up. Now, even the GOP establishment's super PAC, called Club for Growth, came out in support of the amendment, which would have helped garner the other 23 votes in favor of it, but it wasn't not enough, and it failed 24 to 67. Had all the Senate Republicans voted for it, it would have passed. Now, without knowing why those 25 Republicans voted against it, let's point to a potential reason why Congress as a whole does not cut federal spending. And again, we turn to the newamerican.com to come up with an article, and this is by constitutional attorney Joel Wolverton. And in his article, he mentions that there is a group called Open the Books that has revealed some serious issues of how congressmen are able to enrich themselves while in office. In their newest report called The Congressional Favor Factory, Legalized Pay to Play, they wrote, "Did you ever wonder why 97% of Congress gets reelected each year, even though only 17% of the American people believe our representatives are doing a good job? It's called an incumbent protection system. That system has many features. For instance, most districts are gerrymandered by states to protect incumbents. In a real sense, politicians pick their voters as much as voters pick their politicians. Another feature is that members of Congress more or less write their own rules. It's no surprise they know how to play the game. Our newest oversight report includes 8 case study examples for Republicans and for Democrats. These members serve on the most powerful committees in Congress. We followed the money and found a culture of conflict of interest. The confluence of federal money, campaign cash, private employment, investments, prestigious committee appointments, political power, nepotism, and other conflicts are a fact pattern. Members of Congress own investment stock in, are employed by, and receive retirement pensions from federal contractors, to whom billions of taxpayer dollars flow. Moreover, members sponsor legislation that affects these contractors. Then, the contractor's lobbyists advocate for the legislation that helps the member and the contractor. Oftentimes, the contractor's lobbyists donates campaign cash to the member as well. Our audit provides the details on how the game is played with your tax dollars. We found the top donors to members giving hundreds of thousands of dollars in campaign cash and receiving millions, if not billions, of dollars in federal subsidies and contracts. They conclude, Congress writes our laws. Nothing we uncovered in our oversight report is illegal. In fact, it's all legal. Quite possibly, that is the scandal. And again, this comes to us from Open the Books and their newest report, The Congressional Favor Factory, Legalized Pay to Play. And indeed, not only is it not a scandal, but if you've ever wondered why good candidates that you send to Congress are not able to do much of anything, say in the way of cleaning up the swamp, this could be a very good reason why. And it's also highly immoral. But No one wants to discuss morality nowadays, because if we did, we'd have to have one hefty excuse for why there are 60 million dead babies through abortion, or explain why it's okay that Johnny is being taught that marriage is no longer Adam and Eve, but that Adam and Steve are okay. But I digress. JBS founder Robert Welch frequently quoted J.A. Froude, who had written, "Morality, when vigorously alive, sees farther than intellect." Now, Mr. Welch wrote back in December of 1970 in our JBS bulletin. He wrote, "But morality is not only not vigorously alive today, it is so debilitated, confused, and browbeaten that both its force and its foresight have become pitifully inadequate to the need. Amid all the babble of false tongues around us, even the basically good people sometimes find it hard to know what is right and what is wrong in a given situation. The sophistries of an evil conspiracy have been presented so impressively and so cleverly that men with the most honorable intentions waver between the alluring promises of a completely phony new morality and the sound dictation of their own consciousness. So the time has come, in fact it is long overdue, when many of the moral uncertainties of today, most of which have been introduced into our contemporary world by the satanic conspiracy for its own evil purposes, ought to be swept away." Now this is 1970, folks. So think about it and put yourself into the shoes of those good congressmen that you send to Washington. You arrive at the swamp determined to drain it, and you have your first one-on-one meeting with leadership. Democrat or Republican, it really doesn't matter. You're welcomed into the office, and the older statesman tells you that he's sure you'll be a great addition around here. After all, he's been trying to drain the swamp for years. He tells you that you'll get a placement on a committee whose main issue you campaigned about so that you can keep at least one of those campaign promises that you made back home. Then at the end of the conversation on your way out, he mentions, "Oh, by the way, there's a certain vote coming up, and it would be very worth your while to invest into stock of a company who will be a recipient of some of those dollars coming from that bill." He assures you that, well, this is perfectly legal, and it will help out your family back home who are struggling to adjust to the new schedule of only seeing you on the occasional weekend. Not to mention the meager salary that you're able to send home after all the DC living expenses are deducted. Then he suggests that you contact that company to see if they could use your talents, either on their board or perhaps in their school during the summer, because, well, they pay very well, he says. So, what would you do? And without a solid moral compass, easy money can easily change your direction. Morality needs to be kept alive, needs to be embraced, needs to be practiced, as it will keep you out of a myriad of compromising positions, even if the immorality is legal and legit. This only details the importance of holding your elected officials accountable. If they are not held accountable, then the swamp will never be drained, and the government will continue to spiral out of its constitutional limitations. Now, the New American is now out with its Freedom Index, which rates congressmen based on their adherence to the Constitution. Now, here's how constitutional the Democratic-led House of Representatives is. Okay, if they would have done well, it would have been 100%. That would have been perfect. But unfortunately, the average score in the House of Representatives is 36%. So, if you think that the Republican-led Senate did much better, I got to say you're in for a shock, because the Republican-led Senate average score is a dismal 28%. So we ask that you pick up a copy of the November 18th issue to find out the 2 senators and the 2 representatives who scored 100%, and then find out how your congressman did. Then contact them and let them know their score. Thank them where appropriate and nudge them for them to get a better score where appropriate. Now, we have a link to help you do just that. Just look for it in the video description. And then buy these issues in bulk and distribute them to others to get them to do the same. So it's not just one person contacting them, but several. And congressmen have told us over the years that it takes 50 phone calls to get their attention on a particular issue. So work to get their attention. Then, consider applying for membership in the John Birch Society as we work as a group all across the nation to protect American liberty and independence. And be sure to like and share this video as well as subscribe. And until next time, we'll see you then.